Hello everyone, this is Rick, and I just wanted to share with you some information about entering data into Excel 2007, a couple of handy tips about formatting and different categories that come up often, such as text, dates, percentage values, dollar values, how to format those cells, and how to enter and edit data, and a couple of other handy tips. So anyways, what I did is just made a couple of categories here. And if you'll notice, I'm going to expand this column a little bit, but here in column B, if I click in this first cell in B1, if I want to look at the format of that cell, I can right click it and choose, let go of the right mouse button when you do that, scroll down, click Format Cells, and you'll notice the category is General. There's other categories here. If you wanted to, you could change it into a number, currency, a date, percentage, whatever the appropriate appropriate formatting is. So here's alignment if you want to move things around, and we'll show you that a little bit later. So anyways, under item name, I'm going to go ahead and type in item name is widget. The date, you notice it was just general formatting, but what I've done is, or what happens is, if I put in today's date, which is February 5th, 2010, I hit return, you notice it put it in a date format. You'll notice on this one here, if I go back and look at the format cells, it's still under the general category. If I go under this cell, B2, where I typed in a date, you'll notice it changed it to a date format. And you can change it to whatever format you would like. So you see this one listed as month, day, year, and it shows you a little sample here. So let's assume that I want to change it to the day with the, spelled out like that. And you'll notice I got the hash marks here. That means it doesn't fit into the cell. So what I do is I expand that column to where it'll fit. And you see now it's Friday, February 5th, 2010. Okay? But what I'm going to do, I'm going to hit undo a couple times, and I'm going to change it back to my old setting. Percentage, what you can do here, if you type 20, that's not really going to be valid if you're trying to get 20%, because what happens here, if I right click on it and again go to Format Cells, it put it in as a fraction. What we want to do is click on percentage, and you'll notice 20 is really 2000%. So in order to enter 20 correctly, you can do it a couple of different ways. If the cell is not formatted for fractions, you would type 0.20. If it was already formatted for percentages, you could type in 20. But if you type in 20 without having the cell pre-formatted, it's going to come up as 2000%, not 20%. So if this were a regular cell that you hadn't altered any of the formatting, you'd type 0.20 for 20%. And then you would go into that cell, format it, and choose your percentage, and then you can choose your number of decimal places here. Okay? So just a couple quick things I wanted to point out. You need to think in advance about how you want your formatting done, because that, especially if you're doing percentages, how you enter it into the cell will impact the actual percentage that shows up. Okay? Dollar value, we'll type in $20. So you type in $20, it's just going to come up as plain 20 here. But let's say you want to format it into a current, to make, with a dollar symbol and so forth. Go into Format Cells, choose Currency, and typically you'd have 2 decimal places on there. You could put a dot, leave the dollar sign on there, and it'll give you a sample right here. You click OK. You can right click there again. If for some reason you just wanted it without the symbol on there, you could hit the pull down here, choose none, and you see it gets rid of it. I'm going to undo that right now. A couple other things I wanted to share with you is a quick tip. I'm going to go ahead and delete this cell. If I hit delete, it'll just clear the cell out. One thing about clearing that cell out is it does not clear the formula when I just hit the delete key. So it's just the information within that cell, not the formatting. So what I'm going to do is under date, I'm going to show you a shortcut here that you can do, which is hold down the control key with your cursor in your cell highlighted, hold down the control key and hit semicolon, and it will auto-populate it in there for you automatically. Of course, it's going to pull that from your computer's date. Also, if you want to do the time, you can do control, then hold down the shift key at the same time, and then hit the semicolon, and it will put the time down. Okay, so just a couple quick tips there. Some other things I want to share with you is by default you'll have auto fill in. Anyways, or autocomplete, I'm sorry. So if I start typing WIDGET, no, it didn't work for some reason. There, it worked that time. You see where I typed widget again, I just had to type W and it recognized that was the only word that had already that it recognizes, so it will autocomplete for you. So that's one thing. Another thing I wanted to share with you, and then one more thing is, again, I wanted to go over like the auto capabilities of filling in patterns, right? So if I put, I formatted that as a date before, so I'm going to put it down here. I'm just going to start here counting column G, 1, 2, 3. I can highlight those, hold down my left mouse button, click on this cell, drag it down to this one. I get my cursor right to the bottom right here. For some reason my screen recorder is not picking it up, but your cursor will turn into a cross there, a hash. Hold down the left mouse button and just drag down. You can drag it as long as you want to, right? So I'll make it go to 15. I'll go ahead and just clear that out. But another thing you can do is, if you had a pattern, you can do the same thing. So 135, it will recognize the pattern and it should fill in automatically, right? Same thing goes for months. Right, if I put in January and February and I want to go down and fill it out for every month of the year, that will auto fill it in like that. So I think that's one other thing that I want to share with you is that if for some reason you need to enter a fraction, you can do that just by typing it in. So let's say 2 3/4. You can type 2 space 3/4, which is 2 3/4, which is the same thing. If I go into that cell and format it, I could change it to a number, and it would change it to the decimal format, 2.75, right? Or I could leave it like that. All right, and then the final thing is, I just want to remind everybody, if you're doing a formula, for example, if you had, I'm going to just type quantity here. Formulas always start with the equal sign. So I say equals, I'm sorry, that's not where I wanted to put my formula. I'm going to put 10 there for quantity, and then I'm going to total it here. I'll put a total, and what I want to do is just multiply the cost times the quantity. So always formulas start with equal, the dollar value, times the quantity in this case. So that's just a quick reminder, and look what happened. So this is a common thing that can happen. Remember I mentioned before that the cells, when you delete information out of the cell, it will not remove the formatting. So I'm going to have to go back in here and change that into currency, and I'm going to leave it at I'm going to change it back to 2 decimal places and say OK, and there you have it, $200. So I think the last thing I want to show you here is, if you want to edit a cell, just go ahead and double click in the cell and click up here and edit it, or you can click in it, hit the F2 or function 2 button, and it'll do the same thing. So just a couple tips I wanted to share with you. Thanks for tuning in.